Hello and welcome to another CISO Share webinar. Today we are going to be looking at phishing awareness and protection and also at social engineering. Now this is especially themed around COVID-19 and we will be releasing at the same time some case notes to make sure that you don't miss anything and that you have access to more detailed information. During this webinar, we will be looking through a review of good practice to avoid phishing or social engineering scams and trying to maintain vigilance, spotting the warning signs or red flags as they're going to be referred to, the top 10 techniques used by social engineers, or as I'm going to call them in future, boondogglers. COVID-specific examples and spotting red flags are included to make this relevant for today's environment. And those cover subjects such as fake cures, tax refunds, Bitcoin rebates, and fake trusted sources. Then there's a quick summary at the end, just to make sure that you're comfortable, that you can spot red flags, act appropriately, and verify sources of information. In the past 2 months, there has been a 400% increase in phishing attack attempts and the emergence of a plethora of COVID-themed phishing, spear phishing, and social engineering campaigns. Always remember, 98% of cyber attacks start with phishing or social engineering. So what are phishing and social engineering? Simple. They are the electronic versions of fraud, wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain, often with the ulterior motive of causing distress, disruption, or harm. Social engineering has been around for so long, we have many names for it. I've included a few of the less offensive terms for it here, but as far as any security expert is concerned, phishing is a universally contemptible, insidious, and potentially highly damaging practice. Primarily, the rules for avoiding exploitation via phishing or social engineering campaign, whether COVID-19 related or not, remain exactly the same, even if the theme has changed. Rule number 1 on social engineering for email or other electronic messages is to apply common sense and take your time before opening or responding to electronic messages. If it looks or sounds even slightly suspicious, it probably is. The best single source of which I'm aware that articulates how to spot a dodgy email, which is also substantially relevant to most electronic messages, is this infographic from industry experts KnowBe4. Please note that there is more detail on this topic and the other information in this webinar in the accompanying case notes. Peruse the content of any messages if your mailbox or application settings allow, but if that content is not relevant, delete the message without opening it. Certainly don't click on any links or download any attachments. If you're dealing with a suspicious phone call, hang up and block or delete that contact. If, however, you want to verify the content of any suspicious message before deleting, because that content might be important, relevant, or legitimate, then check by contacting a trusted source and verifying the information before opening or responding to the initial email or message. Now, even the most careful scrutiny can allow a well-crafted email or message to slip through the net. It's not just email that's used as a vector for phishing. Social engineering can be initiated from something as simple as a persuasive phone call or message on social media, because social engineering is simply an electronic version of fraud. The best defense against being lured into a phishing scam, clicking on a link to a malevolent website, or downloading content from a malicious email is to look for these red flags. Red flag number 1, asking for your password or sensitive information. Any unexpected email, text, social media message, website, or phone call asking for your password, personal, financial, or confidential information has to be treated as highly suspect. Only change account details or passwords as directed by your IT or HER departments, or for external passwords or information exchange via a legitimate, secure channel, perform any required transactions or updates. Never, Never ever click through an unverified email link to change your password, share important information or account details. Always make sure you are on the legitimate website before logging in to make changes to your accounts, and use multi-factor authentication wherever possible. Red flag number 2, executable content. The second most common red flag is anything online that asks you to execute content. This can be a download from a website or a file or Office document that needs you to enable content. The file you are executing may contain a simple piece of malware, a dropper, which will download more complex and damaging forms of malware, virus and code. Never download content from a site you do not trust, or download a document that is from an untrusted source. Scanning and downloading restrictions help, but we can't rely on automated security to be 100% effective in every case. Our third sign is a suspicious URL. We need to remember how URL structures work and that attackers can disguise domain names and website names and links to appear legitimate. This is really deceptive, but also really easy to do. Scammers will legitimize a link by aliasing or spelling it slightly differently from the existing version, for example. A dodgy or phishing website can be reached by clicking on any link. Now, hovering the mouse cursor over that link should reveal the true destination website address. Admittedly, spoofed sites using minuscule spelling changes like Dell using a capital I instead of an L are difficult to spot. But always going direct to a legitimate site rather than using links will help you to successfully avoid both aliasing and spoofing. Red flag number 4. Another extremely important indicator to be wary of is unusual requests for money transfers or changes to payment account information. Never transfer money or exchange financial information except via a known and trusted service and secure channel, even if the requests appear to come from a trusted email contact or source. Email compromise scams have caused over £20 billion in losses since June 2016. Your university or college will have policies and procedures in place to reduce the likelihood of these scams succeeding, but we all still need to know how to recognize suspicious requests. Other signs of social engineering include the use of stressful scenarios to motivate you to act quickly, the inability of someone to talk on the phone to verify their identity, and trying to move your conversation to a different, less supervised platform. There is no reason to trust that anyone online is who they say they are unless they can prove their identity. As you might have guessed, this is a set of tactics which are being exploited mercilessly with the COVID-19 related emails, messages, and calls. Paying attention to these red flags can help you avoid falling for most social engineering attacks. Being mindful of these signs should make everyone stop and think twice before taking an action that could compromise not only their own electronic accounts, personal information, and financial details, but also those of an entire organization, just from one click. Now, there follow some key examples of the types of phishing and social engineering scams which have appeared over recent months to criminally exploit the COVID-19 epidemic and restrictions. Thanks to Police Scotland for the themes. Look out for the red flags in each of the examples because practice makes perfect. Fake cures and medical supplies are really doing the rounds at the moment. Now, these examples utilize a classic baiting technique using malvertising and some pretexting to lure you into clicking on dodgy links. There is currently no cure for COVID-19, and when a vaccine is developed, legitimate main media channels will announce it globally and immediately. Additionally, if mainstream sites such as national pharmacy chains do not have these items in stock, then a magic source is not going to appear. Legitimate sites such as those of Scottish Government or the NHS have the best, updated and authoritative advice on measures to mitigate COVID-19. The flags to look out for here are number 2, which is executable content. These messages have links which are not to secure sites, which we never click on anyway. and flag number 3, which is an unusual source or URL. These messages are spam from an unknown source. Even if the sender's address has been aliased, these are obviously not messages from a well-known or benevolent personal acquaintance. Your action in these cases, just delete. Simple as that. For further information, here are the legitimate sites such as Scottish Government and the NHS for the latest COVID-19 information and updates. Again, the links are in the case notes, so you should be able to use them and look for real information. If you receive any message claiming to be from HMRC offering you a tax refund or payment, it is fake. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs or any government agency will never ever contact you by email about a tax or benefit, refund or payment. The email example attempts to hit multiple baiting and stress points throughout. However, all transactions with HMRC are conducted via their secure portal. Even without that knowledge, the red flags are here. Flag number 2, executable content. Flag number 3, unusual source or URL. Flag number 5, stressful scenario. Action, delete the message. Further action apart from deleting any emails or electronic messages, HMRC ask that you report tax or payment related phishing scams via their website. This is the trusted source for all HMRC information, and the link is here. Bitcoin payments. The example in this slide looks very official. However, the World Health Organization are not directly emailing individuals for funding and never trade in Bitcoin. Indeed, no legitimate government or health agency ever trades in Bitcoin. So what are the red flags here? Well, it's flag number 2, which is executable content. Flag number 3, which is an unusual source or URL. And flag number 4, which is unusual requests for money transfers. What is the recommended action? You guessed it, delete the message. Further action for World Health Organization information, including their secure donation portal, the trusted link is provided below to the official site. Trusted sources. These examples are classic water polling techniques with a number of additional stress, engagement, and information reaping techniques dropped in for good measure. These texts, emails, and social media sites aim to legitimise themselves by masquerading as trusted sources, such as government departments, IT and HR functions within your organisation, or, in the final example, being the internet source of truth. If a suspicious email or message purports to come from a trusted source, go directly to that trusted source for information. Although finding the definitive source of truth on the internet may be quite a challenge. Which flags are being activated here? Flag number 1, request for passwords, personal, confidential, financial information. Flag number 2, executable content. Flag number 3, unusual source or URL. Flag number 4, unusual request for money transfers. And flag number 5, stressful scenarios, because these types of messages try to hit every single phishing spot. Now, what's the action? The action is to verify the content from the trusted source rather than the email and delete the message. Now, these are only a few examples of the type of phishing and social engineering fraud which are being perpetuated by cyber criminals globally. Some other scams of note are notifications that services such as Microsoft Teams, Netflix, and your electricity supply have been suspended or require an update to your accounts due to changes in practice from the COVID restrictions. Quite frankly, scammers and boondogglers will try any possible avenue to perform fraud, including phishing and social engineering, and not all of those avenues are easy to identify. How do we defeat phishing? Remain vigilant to looking for red flags in all digital correspondence and calls. This practice very quickly becomes second nature, and you will be able to spot phishing scams and social engineering fraud almost automatically. When we spot something suspicious, we act appropriately. We delete all suspicious phishing emails or messages without opening or clicking attachments or links. We do not engage with waterhole or conspiracy social media activity. We never download applications or content from untrusted sources, and we never click on untrusted links. Also, we hang up on and block unwanted telephone calls. If we are in any doubt as to the veracity or the source of information we've received electronically, we go to the authorized, secure source or site. And we never conduct an electronic financial transaction from an untrusted source or site. Always using a verified route such as your bank or a protected payment channel such as your credit card or PayPal is always the best way. Vigilance, common sense, including slowing down and giving yourself the time to think things through, plus appropriate actions are our best defense against phishing scams and social engineering techniques. Now, there's no room to explore these subjects any deeper within this update. However, future material on information security, tabletop exercise, workshops, and awareness are under development and will be shared as they are released. In the meantime, stay safe, stay secure, and bye for now. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for listening. And as always, HEFESTIS are happy to answer questions or clarify any of the details in this webinar. Please feel free to contact us as detailed above if we can be of any assistance. So, goodbye for now.